And our first presentation is by Ranjan Banerjee and Manish Mahajan from Fiserv. They would be talking about user behavior based testing model. Over to you guys.
Thank you, Samiksha. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. An honor to talk about our best practices on the user behavior-based testing, and a privilege to interact with so many bright minds in QA and testing. My name is Ranjan Banerjee. I've been with this industry for about 21 years now. Played various roles, leadership roles in Infosys and Cognizant, and currently part of the testing organization of Fiserv. I have with me my colleague Manish Mahajan.
Hello everyone, good morning. Myself Manish Mahajan, I'm having 15 plus years of experience in IT, worked with different service-based and fintechs. Today we will talk about user-based journey and how it helps in improving our quality and testing.
Thank you. Is the slide navigating? Can somebody confirm? Is the slide moving? Can you see?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So before we get started with the topic, let's spend a minute to understand why is customer experience so important. So Salesforce says that 67% of the customer are willing to pay more for a great experience. In a recent study that was conducted by Qualtrics, it says that 65% of the customer sees the experience as the most important parameter for them to recommend a brand. In fact, I was going through the World Quality Report, and almost every page of that had a mention of customer experience as one of the key parameters that in the CIO across the organization and industries, be it manufacturing, be it the finance, be it the government sector, the insurance, you name it. Every organization today are focusing on the user experience improvement. And it's not only an engine for increasing the revenue growth, but it is also now become a de facto standard for survival in this whole digital organization. Yesterday Dr. Shankar spoke about the multi-user experience. Kavita ma'am today spoke about how can we improve the customer satisfaction index for the company. So there is a lot of focus that today goes in terms of improving the customer satisfaction, and how can QA play an important role out there. Let me give you a couple of examples how it is important in our own context. A couple of years back, we were basically upgrading our payment platform. So the earlier payment platform was a legacy platform. It had a very simple two-step process. The first step is that you select a person or a pay that you need to pay, and then you enter the amount in the second step, and you are done. So we upgraded that platform to a new UI UX technology, and we made it to a three-step process. So now a user has to go select a pay, enter the amount that he or she wants to pay, and then at the last step 3, you have to confirm the payment. It went live, it was all functionally working fine. And 1 month later, what we found was that the volumes were decreasing. So we were quite surprised that it's all modern technologies and all. Why is volume not increasing? Why is that there is a drop in the volume? So when we looked at it, it was very surprising that actually the users were still of the mindset that they used to go to the second page, right? They used to enter the payment, but they never used to go to the confirm page and used to confirm it, because they were still in the habit of two-step process. So what used to happen is their payments were never actually going through to the full cycle. So this is an example of how something that has been done with a good intent may not always give you a good result if you don't meet your customer experience. The other example I would give you is the start of the pandemic. We have a platform that basically helps you to do a payment for in cash payment. Essentially, if you go to US or any of the retail store out there, once you do the checkout, there is a small counter in there. You can go and say, hey, I would like to pay a bill, and here is a check, or here is you can pay by cash. So at the start of the pandemic, when we were focusing on what to invest on, what to kind of focus on, We thought that, okay, with the lockdown coming in, the cash transactions are going to drop, and it would be mainly the people will be moving on digital transactions, right? To our surprise, after a month or so, initially it dropped for a month or so, and then after that it increased. So essentially, what it tells us is that your users, your customers that actually are using your product are very unique. They may have a very unique set of requirement that you need to kind of focus on, irrespective of the whatever the world is saying, that the entire thing will move into a digital payment platform. We still have a lot of users who are actually today using the cash or a physical form of payment. So with that, we thought that how can we kind of improve our whole customer experience for our product, and we embarked on a transformation journey jointly with our product organization, the CIOs, and the development team and QA team played a very important role in terms of defining the strategy. So our objective was very simple, right? Our objective was to make, how can we make our angry customer to happy customer? And one of the thing that if you look at our products, it's very customized product, right? We have today the customizations are done at an nth level. You have region specific customization, you have location specific customization, you have a language specific customization, etc. So it's very difficult for a QA organization to represent so many segments of an user. A way a millennial would be using an app vis-a-vis, let's say, somebody who is senior citizen would be very different, right? To give you an example, we have again a payments platform which is used by large banks, let's say like of Bank of America or a Merrill or a Wells, wherein the level of features, the workflow, the UI UX is very different, even though the underlying engine is same, as compared to something which is a small size or a mid-sized bank, right? But as a QA team, as a QA organization, we need to ensure that when we test, we have to represent each and every segment of those users, right? Otherwise their needs doesn't get addressed. So with that, our whole objective was to make testing as close to real world as possible. And we kind of formulated this simple model, and it's a three-step process. Capture the behavior, wherein we used a digital mechanism to capturing a behavior. Lot of people say that one of the the important way of analyzing the customer, the feedback, is to look at the incidents. Yes, it is definitely important, but it is, to me, it's still a post-mortem, right? Because and secondly, not all customer issues gets reported as an incident, right? So so we have to be proactive. We have to kind of up our game to understand those issues earlier in the cycle and try to address them in the in earlier, so before the customer actually experience it. The second step was to look at the modeling. So we used a simple BDD kind of a model, and the reason we used it was, I'm sure if you write thousands of test cases and show it to your SME or a product owner, he or she may not be able to make much sense of it. So we wanted something that is easy to understand for anybody, particularly with our business team, and it's easy to automate as well. So we looked at modeling the whole thing in a BDD format, and then we made it as a part of the process. So today what happened is that before we do, let's say, sprint planning, we look at the last month's data and analyze that what are our users saying, what kind of issues are they facing in production, what have been the volumes, what kind of error code are they handling, etc. And then try to incorporate them in the engineering process itself, so that this whole loop is a completely, it's a 360-degree kind of a feedback loop that we follow in our project. Let's look a little more detail into how we have implemented it. So on the top hand side, you would see a tag management been written, right? So the way we have kind of captured the user behavior is is in two parts. One is the user journey itself. So when I say user journey, I mean what are the steps that a typical user has taken from start to finish of a transaction, right? And this I'm talking about a real life production data. So what we do is using a tool called Telium, and you can use any other tool that's available in the market. We use Telium, which is one of the the leading tool, which gives us a nice view of the digital footprint of the user, starting from what kind of user it is. Is it a new user? Is it an existing user? What kind of links the person is going through, what kind of buttons he's clicking, and at the end you get a nice single user view of your customer journey. That gets fed into an analytics tool. We used Adobe Analytics for our project, which basically gives you page wise data. So it tells you that, hey, in this particular feature, what are your top features that has been used, what kind of browsers, what kind of error code, what kind of traffic, all of it. And I know my colleague Manish is going to talk about it in the later slide in some of the use cases. So when we have these two together, it's a very important input for the QA team to kind of do the modeling and also prioritize, in the sense, we all go through the whole process of regression. If we get to know that what is actually important for our user, what are the top features that the users are using, it just makes life more simpler to kind of focus on the things that actually matter to our users, right? So we basically took it, and we modeled that into a simple end-to-end scenarios in a BDD format. And then obviously we automated it, and this the same process was put into a whole CI/CD pipeline, and the whole process was a 360-degree automation process. With this, maybe I'll just hand it over to Manish to talk about some of the use cases that that he has implemented in the product. Manish, you need to turn on your mic.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are. Go on.
Thank you. So today we will talk about some of the use cases, how it helps us in improving our customer journey, and how it helps us in testing and improving our quality and all. So we have seen that there are many features which are very important from customer perspective, and those features we are also testing from functional point of view. But this analytics report gives us an important information about the user, that these are the few features, these are the few pages in the application which are highly used by the customer, right? So we have to test that thoroughly, so that in production customer will not face any issues and any of the problems. So what we used to do is, because we have seen that many a time development takes lots of time, and due to which we have a short testing cycle, and we have created a risk-based testing suite also, which help us in testing those highly important features of users, that gives us confidence that these whatever the patch or release is going into production, we will not face any issues. And we have seen gradually in last 2 to 3 or 4 months, we have seen that we haven't faced those type of issues which we used to face in 2020 and early 2021, because we have included all the highly used features in our regression suite and the risk based scenarios. Second criteria is the bounce rate activity. So the Adobe Analytics give a very good information why a particular user is bouncing back due to the complex problem of the application or complexity of the application, right? So I will give a very good example of it, that we have seen that we have three-step payment process in our application, wherein customer has to in the first step, customer has to enter his information. In the second step, he has to select the biller, then he has to enter the amount for whatever the bill he have wants to pay and all. And the third step is the confirmation. So what happened is that when customer used to put the information in the first step, and second step when he used to add the biller and input the amount what we want to pay for, and then you click on submit, the customer thinks that when he clicks on submit, the payment has been done, but he has to navigate to the third step. But many a times we have seen that due to the age difference and due to the generation gap, we have seen that many of the users have bounced back from the second step stage. So this information we got from the analytics report, we discussed with the leadership team, product engineering team, development team, and we have removed our third step, and now we have given the pop-up button of confirmation on the second step itself. So we have seen gradually in last 2 to 3 months or 6 months, we have seen that on that particular page the bounce rate has been reduced. So this is a typical example which we have seen that improves our quality. The fourth point I want to talk about the error code analysis. Yes, we do test error codes, but normally what we used to do is we used to test the 401, 402, 501 types of error, which are very generally used, right? But here we have seen by the report that many a times customer is facing a day-to-day issue where he is not able to add the any of the biller, or the service is down. So those type of critical errors codes which user is facing day-to-day life, we have mimicked those error codes in our existing regression suite, and we have improved our quality and coverage, and we have seen a lot of benefit out of it.
And
The fifth point talks about, yeah.
just to add to what Manish is saying, see, at times it is not necessary that all the what the functionality of the product is actually not working. So for example, in one of our product, we have a screen, the first screen, where you actually have to enter the details, such as, for example, your biller ID, or a customer number and all, right? So, and I'm sure people who are paying the bill. For example, myself, when I go to the Maharashtra State Electricity Board and pay a bill, it asks me a hell lot of questions. What is your biller number? What is your customer ID, etc., etc., which I don't remember, in spite of using it for many years. So what happened was that the customer so application starts giving error that this is the bill biller ID is not valid, etc. So application is doing what it is supposed to do, guys, but the user's objective is not met, because ultimately the user don't remember, and then he or she thinks, oh, okay, maybe now I will come back again and do the payment. So that's where we kind of changed it, and now we have a mechanism where we are actually storing some of this information as a favorite, and when the user comes in, we do a discovery of it, and we actually kind of pre-populate some of the value, which kind of help the user to complete their payment much more faster and effectively. Yeah, over to you, Manish.
Thank you, Ranjan, for adding those examples too. So, fifth criteria, I will talk about the device in a browser testing scenario. So, basically, analytics report gives us the information about what type of devices our end user is using. So, we have seen a trend that earlier people are used to desktops and all, and later on they have moved to their tablets and phones in this pandemic period. And similarly, in the browser side also, we have seen the similar example that earlier people used to very familiar with IE and Safari, and the trend has changed, and people are more and more moving towards our moving towards our Chrome and Edge. Now we have seen that. So this is a slide which gives you clear information how the trend has been changed. Let's talk about the device information. So having said that, we have increased our coverage more and more on the phones and tablets, because we have seen a trend wherein downs earlier people used to have desktops used very heavily, and later on they are moved to the phone and tablets. Similarly, we have implemented our own mobile device on mobile lab on cloud, which help us to do the testing of more and more devices. And we have various version of devices we have implemented in that lab, and it gives us confidence that all the functionalities are working fine in mobiles from the end user perspective, and we are doing a thorough testing. We have seen a great coverage, and we have seen a great improvement in this. Let's talk about the browser information. Similarly, we have seen that how the trend has been changed from IE to Safari to Chrome and Edge. So earlier, we have seen 45% of people were using IE and 30% of people were using Safari. And we have seen the trend has been changed, and people are moved to, in November, we have seen the people are moved to Chrome and Edge mostly. Similarly, we have changed our testing strategy and approach, and we have included more and more cross-browser testing scenarios across Chrome and Edge. Next slide, please. Let's talk about some of the use cases around performance testing, how this particular user analytics report helps in performance testing. Every company is doing performance testing. There are many tools available which generates a very good data, but how this customer journey helps us in performance. So we have seen few factors. One is the average visit. So we have seen that from different region, we have people who are doing the transaction, who are visiting our websites. So we have seen the peak time and the low time. So we get this information and we have optimized our test data and how our test data should be when the peak time is, how our server response should be when we have a peak time and all this. Similarly, it the second factor talks about the time is spent. So it gives a data about how the customer comes to our site, how much time he has spent, what activities he has been done, and that time we can see how much is the load, and accordingly we have optimized our test cases and we have optimized our data. Fourth is about the application traffic. So it gives an information about how are your unique users are, who are doing the activity, who are doing the transaction, how are the ideal users who are doing nothing. So actually we see that the traffic is more and more, but there is a difference that people who are sitting idle are doing nothing. And there are few customers only who are doing the transaction. So load which we can see on the application is not the load which should be actual. So we are accordingly we have mimicked those scenarios and we have seen in the peak time how the response time of the application should be. The third is the feature load time. This is very good, very good item which we have improved a lot. So what happened is usually in performance testing we are more and more concentrating on the load and all. But here we have seen once very good item wherein when person is logging into the application, when he is adding a billers and he do the transaction, what is the exact time from end to end state when he start with login and he ends with the transaction done and all completion, what time he has been taken. So those type of scenarios also we have included in our performance testing, and we have seen that you know, we have changed our benchmark also. So earlier what we used to do is we have set the benchmark from our last release and all. But here when we see the actual reports, how a end user takes time to do the transaction and all from begin to end, this type of scenarios we have included and we change our benchmark, and we have got a very good feedback on this. Similarly, in this we have seen some of the couple of the challenges also, and we have done a root cause analysis why if particular features takes time, and we have checked our database whether the database size has been full or load balancing is not working fine. So all these actions we have checked and we have optimized our performance data also. The last one is the completion time. Here completion time, again this is this gives us how what are the bounce rate, how why the application is slow. So this is already been discussed by me that this gives us why the particular our servers are slow or why they are down, or when we are doing the balance load balancing. So you can see some of the servers are not working as per their expectations. So this gives us information of performance, and we have optimized our scripts, and we got a lot of improvement and lot of coverage from the performance side.
Yeah,
That's
thank you, Manish.
Ranjan talk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Manish. So I think, in short, in my own experience, if I say, there are basically two set of problems we typically see, performance, testing. One, of course, the age-old problem of, environment not being, equivalent to what the production is, right? If you leave that aside for a minute, the other one is basically how realistic is your workload pattern, right? So this tool, the analytics tool, helped us to make our workload pattern as realistic, as possible, to the level that, we were able to understand, what kind of user traffic is, what the user is actually doing, what features are they using, what time are they using, what browsers are they using, so on and so forth, right? So you could do much more specific and targeted testing. Also, it also helped you to do something very specific. For example, like I was just giving you an example of a big client, right? Let's say, a big client, like for example, a Bank of America or so, which has got thousands and thousands of users using a product, may have seen a different set of performance issues as compared to, something which is, as a mid-sized bank which may have a lower volume of, users. So how do you simulate all of these into your performance testing if you don't have a nice view of, what the real life world or how the mirror looks like? So this helped us to kind of, make our performance testing much more closer to the real life as possible. Let me, move ahead and talk about some of the key benefits. As I said, the early detection of issues. Yes, we are able to detect our user issues earlier in the life cycle. It helped in prioritizing because now the testing and particularly the regression is focusing more on the features that actually matters to the user. The collaboration is improved. With BDD, everybody understands and everybody talks the same language. Most importantly, there is a shift in in the behavior from test to behavior, right? So when we as a tester, we test the application, what we are encouraging our testers to do is to look little beyond, and try to put yourself into the user shoe. For example, if you are testing a bill application, think that if I have to use this product for making my own payment, am I a happy customer? That changes the complete perspective from validating what is mentioned in the user story or functional specification versus looking it from a user's eye point of view. And finally, the whole thing that we have automated using a CI/CD journey helped us achieve some of the the effort saving benefit. In terms of the business outcomes, we've seen a good business outcome. The bounce rate has gone down, as Manish had said, significantly. The transaction volume has gone up, and we have seen less number of customer issues being reported in the last 6 months or so. So with this, maybe I'll take a pause and invite any questions that I can help answer.